Welcome, welcome, welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family, to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark. Of course, please call me Dr. Mel. And we are here joyfully each and every week to bring you the health information that you need to make wise and empowered decisions for yourself, your family, and even for your community. So thanks for tuning in on any of the platforms you're catching us on. If you happen to be on YouTube, please hit that red subscribe button. And if you happen to be on Facebook, please hit that like button. We really, really appreciate you for it. And for the newbies who are joining us, of course, after you do that, remember we're here for you to answer your questions. So we make sure as we go through the show to put your questions, your concerns, your thoughts, put them in the chat. We want to hear from you. That is why we're here. So let us get into creating an amazing week for ourselves with all the health related information we're going to cover this week. And to do that, I have to have Mr. Wayne Bruce at my side, my producer, my co-host,
Dr.
bringing the word
Mel,
from the street. Hey,
what's
up,
up?
Wayne?
I'm not in the streets as people can see. I'm below the streets.
Below
And
the
I'm
street,
near
in the
I'm
water.
near the waterways in salute of I'm not even gonna go there, but I'm near the waterways.
Well, if you're not watching on your computer, Wayne has a backdrop of the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, D.C. with the Potomac running right by him. So
Right. Actually, it's the Memorial Bridge, but we're not gonna say nothing.
yeah, wait,
We're
okay.
gonna question your knowledge of
My DC knowledge.
Your DMV, as we call it, DMV for all the people outside of the region. We call this region the DMV, meaning the District, Maryland, and Virginia. Dr. Mel, I'm
Hey,
excited. I'm excited.
why are you excited? What's
Because I
going on this
dropped
week in the
weight,
show?
right? But I mean, I'm
Uh-huh.
excited because I love food. I'm not
Yeah.
even going to lie.
Uh-huh.
I love food.
Many people do. You're not alone.
So by today's show standards, I would love food and medicine. See
You
how I
mean
tied that in?
food as your medicine?
Right. Same thing.
All
Food
right. Well,
as my medicine. So I would love food and medicine. Dr.
oh,
Mel,
I see.
I mean what I say, and I say what I mean.
Well, what we're going to cover today, I don't know what you mean, but what we're going to cover today is, how can our eating habits affect our health? Does food as medicine literally mean food as medicine, or does it mean something else? And we have a lifestyle medicine physician who is going to guide us through this discussion of what we eat and how it relates to our health. I'm super excited too, because it's going to be a fantastic show.
It's going to be a fantastic show, Dr. Mel.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Make sure you share it. Share it with all the foodies out there.
Everybody, go share it.
Yeah, just share it with everybody, but especially people who have high blood pressure, diabetes, any food related illness. Just share it. It's going to be a good show.
The silent killers.
Yes.
Change
absolutely.
your life. This show is about life and being grateful, aren't we today, Dr. Mel?
Yes, we are. So let us get into our weekly recap, because they're going to see what you mean by being grateful in a second.
Here we go. Dr. Mel, all the things in the week that was in health and wellness.
Yes.
So look.
Our weekly recap.
COVID, I did say that COVID is on the upswing. It's back. Like everybody going back to school, COVID is coming back to haunt us. What's going on, Doc?
The thing is, it never really went away. It just has the nerve right now to be on the rise. And how do we know? It's not because more people are going and getting tested. It's actually from wastewater, also known as, the art is formerly known as, sewage. So we're seeing also a rise in hospital admissions just going along with this increased COVID in the wastewater. Now, the rise is not as steep as we've seen in previous summers, because remember, we always have been seeing this surge in the summer and the winter. But it's enough to start to think, hey, you should be masking in crowded situations like airplanes or subways. So it's definitely something to note.
What is making this happen? What's going on?
I think it's a variety of things just coming together. People's immunity is waning because it's been a while, almost a year probably since they got their last booster, even though the booster is available. We're traveling more, for the summer, and we're bringing variants back because variants are on the upswing as well as ones that are a little bit more contagious. So we're bringing those variants back home. And then also, too, it's been hot and people are going indoors more and more to get away from the heat and congregating indoors.
It's been hell hot. I'm just letting you
Yes.
know.
Yes, it
It's been
has in
hell hot
most
in several
places.
places. So
Right.
so we should just mask accordingly, right?
Right. And remember there's also an updated booster that's due to come out probably sometime around September.
Okay.
And that would be a great time to get boosted to prepare for the winter surge. In the meantime, watch the wastewater data and mask accordingly.
Okay, there we go. Look, I'm counting my blessings because remember that song? Ashford Simpson song?
I had to learn a lesson, never forget
Come on,
to
Dr. Mel.
count your
Watch out now.
blessings. That's
Don't
hey,
don't quit your
I'm
day
dating
job, but
myself, but that's the jam. I'm just
don't quit
saying.
your day
Okay. All right, I
job.
won't.
So look, they're finding out that with this upswing of depression and anxiety, there might be a simple but proven method to that can contribute to our well-being.
That's right. Ashford and Simpson had it right. Being grateful actually boosts your mental health. Imagine that.
Wow. Wow. How does it work?
So, well, gratitude, let's just, level set. Gratitude is the positive acknowledgement of goodness in your life, generally due to an outside influence, either others in your life or a higher power for those of us who believe that. And so the key, though, is that you have to express it. So simply writing it down regularly was found to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. It also increased self esteem, improved satisfaction with daily life, and there was an association with better sleep and lower blood pressure. That's a whole lot just
That's
from
a
being
whole lot.
grateful.
So yeah, I guess expressing gratitude to others also improves our relationship. So if you express
Mhm.
gratitude to your coworkers, your lovers, your friends, your family, your producers, hint, hint. And so I guess for all you people with gratitude journals, find at least one thing a day and express it for better health and
And
develop those
express it to
gratitude.
those. And thank you, Wayne, for being an excellent producer. You do it so well every week.
Lord, I'm about to write it down. Right now. So look, so let's get back to business. Look, now I'm a sports fanatic, and a lot of us have followed LeBron James for a number of years,
Mhm.
uh, all his career for me. And his son now is starting to play college basketball, but he had a cardiac arrest. And I'm concerned about him, but I'm also concerned about the young athletes that are going back to school. Talk
Yes.
to us, Dr. Mel.
Well, that happened over a week ago, and, thankfully, Bronny James is doing better. Um, he suffered a cardiac arrest. It's actually the leading cause of death among young athletes in the United States. It's rare, between about 100 to 150 happen every year during competitive sports, but that's a lot. And so it's more common in basketball players, football players, soccer players, and it disproportionately affects men and athletes who are of Afro Caribbean descent,
Wow.
so African descent. So that's something to really be aware of.
What causes it? Is it
Well,
like a heart attack or is it a heart attack? Is that the same thing?
it's a little different. So the flow of electricity through our heart is what makes our heart pump. And a cardiac arrest is when that flow of electricity stops or gets disrupted for some reason. So our heart stops and stops pumping blood.
Wow.
And that's a little different than a heart attack, which is refers to when an artery is blocked that supplies blood to your heart muscle. So therefore, the muscle of the heart dies, and that, if it's massive enough, can lead to your heart stopping. So they're a little different.
O-
And so in younger people, we tend to see the cardiac arrest more. In older people, we tend to see heart attacks.
Okay. What should we know? What should you know for the young athlete?
Yep, for all those young people going, playing sports now and in the fall and throughout the year,
Mhm.
getting sports physicals very crucial, and making sure that you let your young ones know to report any symptoms like dizziness, chest tightness, or unusual shortness of breath, nausea, or vomiting with activity. That's really, really important because those could be warning signs. You want to make sure and ask your school coaches, is there a coach or a trainer who knows CPR? And does the school have an automatic defibrillator, AED, at the practice site and at the games? That's really important because those were the things that saved Bronny James. And also, you remember Damar Hamlin.
Oh
Those are the
yeah.
things that saved them.
Who's back in full uniform, and we wish him
Yes.
nothing but the best.
Absolutely.
So look, Larisha ain't here, but hey man, we still got her in the can. We still got her in
Yep.
the box. And so we got what y'all think coming up. Here it is.
What y'all think? So we have a good one this week.
What is it, Dr. Mel?
Does one person's religious freedom overrule the safety of others? And here's the scenario. So there was a 2021 law in Connecticut that cut out the long-standing religious exemption from childhood immunization requirements for schools,
Hmm.
colleges, and daycare facilities. However, now a federal appeals court just last week upheld that and affirmed that it is indeed constitutional and legal to have state vaccine requirements in Connecticut. So the group that challenged it was called We the Patriots, and they challenged it based on the need to protect religious freedom and parental rights. However, the principle that won out that the court upheld was the need to stop the spread of preventable and potential deadly diseases like whooping cough, measles, polio, all those things that our young ones get immunized against.
Hmm.
So, what y'all think? Does one person's religious freedom over and parental rights overrule the need to protect all of us from potentially life-altering disease? That's the question. We want to hear from y'all. Put it in the chat.
You can hear from me right now.
Okay. What are
The
your thoughts?
one does not supersede all the safety of all. That's that's from the book of Wayne. Just check it out. Fourth chapter.
Is that
Four.
what would
Fourth
Wayne
chapter.
do?
Fourth chapter. Four. Four. Brother from the fourth floor said that.
Okay.
That's
All
how we
right.
got it.
Well, now we know what you think. We want to hear what everybody else thinks. So please put it in the chat.
Put your
Don't
comments
be
in.
shy. And we will get to it at the end of the show because we are going to move on. Thank you so much, Wayne, for walking us through the recap and the what y'all think. Because now we are going to turn to our main topic for tonight. We've known literally for decades that 80% of all chronic disease and premature death that happens in the world around us is in part preventable by just routine physical activity, not smoking, and eating optimally. But what does eating optimally mean? Can food literally be medicine? And if so, how? I have an incredible physician tonight, Dr. David Bowman. He is on the faculty at Howard University's Department of Pediatrics. He is an adult lifestyle medicine physician with a master's in nutritional science. He's on the board of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, where he also co chairs their initiative, Health Equity Achieved by Lifestyle, also called HEAL. Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Bowman. How are you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me, Dr. Mel. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yes. Well, I am glad you could join us. And we're going to kick this off by letting the audience know what is lifestyle medicine, because I'm pretty sure that's a term that they're not familiar with.
Good point. So, lifestyle medicine is a relatively new field of medicine that is called lifestyle medicine because we look at 6 different pillars of lifestyle. So, there is evidence of nutrition, there is physical activity, there is sleep, adequate sleep, there is stress management, avoidance of risky substances, as well as positive social connections. It's a relatively new field of medicine where we are focusing on the prevention, treatment, and reversal of many of the chronic diseases that plague our society.
That's so needed. And even though you're a pediatrician, you also work with adults. So I'm really curious, what brought you to this work? Because most doctors don't get educated on nutrition. So what inspired you to go in this direction in your career?
Two things. One, I'm going a little bit later than go back to the beginning. One was actually a grand rounds that I attended back on June 30th, 2017. There was a certain
Uh-huh.
doctor that was there that day. Dr. Mel was there, along with Dr. Terry Stone and um, uh,
Dr. Laurel Bradley, maybe?
thank you. Yes, the
Uh-huh.
person. Yes, so Dr. Bradley, and I learned about integrative medicine and culinary medicine and things like that. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a real thing. Because what had happened was I had my own health transformation from my own life. So let's say back in 2006, I was having problems with constipation, allergies, asthma, and the like. And I got to the point where my constipation was so bad, I had to have surgery because I
Wow.
was having, yeah, I was having anal leakage, which is very embarrassing for a 35-year-old to have. Anybody really, but
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
35 years old and having that problem. And it was like, I cannot believe I have this problem. So went to the doctor, had eventually had surgery. But the surgery, the surgeon, it was kind of like, oh, just take some more Metamucil. All the advice I got was take more Metamucil, take
Mhm.
laxative, etc. for my constipation. It was never a thought about the food. And so
Mhm.
fast forward, that was 2006. Fast forward to 2015, and I'm doing a Daniel fast.
Okay.
And I did a Daniel fast totally for spiritual reasons, not at all for health reasons.
Mhm.
And so I did this Daniel fast, and uh, about halfway into it, I was like, wait a minute, I got to go to the bathroom again. And usually I go to the bathroom at the time once or twice a week. And even
Wow.
then, twice a week, it was going to be because it was being assisted.
And for
With
everyone out there, we should be going to the bathroom after each meal. So even once a day isn't enough all the time.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was going and I went twice that same day, and I'm like, I don't ever go twice on the same day unless I have diarrhea. Oh, this must be diarrhea. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't diarrhea, it was normal. And I was like, wait a minute. So it got me to understand that the abnormal had become my normal.
Mhm.
And I understood that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, but my lifestyle promoted disease.
Mhm.
And so the Daniel fast is made up of what the prophet Daniel in the Bible had done back in chapter 10, where he said he did a fast from meats and choice foods. And so contemporarily, we do a fast from animal products. So from
Mhm.
uh, pork, beef, chicken, turkey, seafood, milk, dairy, and cheese, and we do a fast from added sweeteners, so no sugar, no
Mhm.
honey, no processed foods like no white rice, no white breads, um, and no caffeine, etc. And so
Mhm.
that's what the Daniel fast was, and now it's when I found that my gosh, I maybe I can be healthy. I had no idea I could. I just assumed
Mhm.
I'm just going to be sick the rest of my life. Constipation
Wow.
is just who I am. Never thought for a minute that my lifestyle could play that much of a role, and it played a role in my eczema, my allergies, etc. So when I saw all these things get better with my lifestyle changes, I'm like, this could work for other people.
Wow.
I had
Right.
yeah, I had something with my dad. I did a Daniel fast one time, and his blood pressure came down. He's been hypertensive for decades,
So
and
you
so I
you
was like, "Wait a
started
minute,
to you
that
started
works
to
too?"
see in your own life and in the lives of others where food and our eating habits were really making a difference. And I wanted to just transition to ask you in terms of, obviously, constipation is something that's linked to poor nutrition. Clearly, it happened for you in your life. What are some of the other diseases that are linked to poor nutrition that are found in the Western diet specifically?
The better question is, what is not linked? To be honest, I
Exactly.
mean, almost every single one of our chronic diseases is related to our diet. So you can start with the heart disease, the high blood pressure, the um, diabetes, high cholesterol. You can keep going down to arthritis, both the osteoarthritis and the rheumatoid arthritis. You can talk about autoimmune diseases. You can talk about cancer. The list goes on and on. There's really very few things: asthma, allergies,
Mhm.
eczema, um, multiple sclerosis, lupus.
Wow.
The list keeps growing and growing of things that
Mhm.
severe COVID,
Mhm.
severe COVID as related to our diet. And so there is really nothing that's not touched by it.
Right. So when we talk about, there's a famous quote that's attributed to Hippocrates, make food your medicine and medicine your food. Um, does that literally mean, you eat this thing and it substitutes for a medicine? Or is it really more talking about our eating habits in general?
I would say both. However, for instance, when I researched COVID, I was like, well, so why are blacks dying fast for COVID? Why are people with high blood pressure dying of COVID and heart disease? Well, why are they dying faster of COVID? And so I went down to the actual underlying resources or underlying reasons why we had severe COVID, and a lot of it was oxidative stress and inflammation. So what
Mhm.
we have found is that almost all of these chronic diseases are related to oxidative stress and inflammation. So if we eat a diet that promotes oxidation and inflammation, i.e., the standard American diet, we will continue to have these problems. But if we
You
eat a diet that is antioxidant rich
Mhm.
and anti-inflammatory, then it can actually be the treatment for many of the health conditions. I'm not saying don't take medicines. I'm saying that
Right.
if we want to get down to the real reason why somebody has, like if somebody has fibroids or something, they have anemia from fibroids, they're not short on getting iron. The problem is that they're eating foods that promote their fibroids. And
Mhm.
so if we stopped eating the foods that promote fibroids, things get a lot better.
Got it. And so, and I think, some people might hear food as medicine and think, oh, well, if I take turmeric or if I eat a lot of curry, I don't have to do anything else. But it's really, as you mentioned, sort of more of a holistic approach to how we're eating to make sure it's anti-inflammatory. So if you could define what anti-inflammatory is and oxidative stress, if you could break those
Oh,
terms
yeah.
down so that people know what it means and what does that really mean practically?
Okay, good point. So I'll try to make it down so it can forever and consistently be broke. So the oxidation, every time we eat anything, whether it be fats or carbohydrates, when we breathe oxygen, our bodies create oxidation from that. That's normal, it's natural, it's supposed to happen. But when we have too many things that cause oxidation and not enough things that reverse it, then we have oxidative stress.
Mhm.
So the things that so we eat what we eat. So either if you ate less of the same foods, you'd have less oxidation, or if you ate foods that are more, I guess I get trying not to find the word, but the word, right? So not trying to find anti-inflammatory, but if you have foods that have more dietary antioxidants. So I'll give you a perfect example. For an apple,
Mhm.
if you cut an apple open, when you open up the apple, if you leave it out for 10 minutes, the pulp turns brown because it's oxidized. So there's air, the oxygen's hitting it. And it's been hitting the skin for days to weeks, and you didn't see the skin get brown, the peel get brown. You only saw the pulp because the pulp doesn't have the antioxidants that the skin of the apple does. And so if you
Interesting.
do apple sauce and apple juice, only as their main sources of plant foods or whatever, then you're not getting the antioxidants that you would get in the peel. So
Mhm.
it's having whole food. It's having the fiber. It's having the peel of the apple, etc. So those are ways to look at both, mainly oxidation or oxidative stress and antioxidants. And the deeper the color of foods, typically the more the antioxidants. So if you have
Mhm.
uh, uh, white rice versus brown rice, if you have
Mhm.
the lighter cabbage versus the purple cabbage. So the deeper the color, the better.
Got it. So you mentioned the Daniel fast and abstaining from meats and processed foods and added sugars, artificial sweeteners. Does everyone need to become a vegetarian or a vegan?
Um, Good question. So I look at things as on a spectrum. So if it also depends on how sick you are. So
Mhm.
if you have one small problem, you have hypertension only, would it make, with smaller changes make a difference? Then maybe. But if you have several severe chronic diseases, it's like if you're in severe debt, could you make one small change to your finances? Maybe, but you can't probably need to make a whole lot of changes, right?
Mhm.
So similarly with your lifestyle, or your health, a lot of it depends on how sick you are. So,
Okay.
but going vegan is not the answer per se. It's not just saying I'm not going to eat meats, I'm not going to eat sugar. It's also what are you eating? So, if you are eating a lot of white carbs and processed carbs, those are vegan, but they're not healthy. If you eat
So
fried,
white so
especially fried,
white carbs mean white potatoes, white rice, white bread,
correct.
um, all that stuff.
Correct. So yeah, and if you fry your potatoes, if you are, so it's more trying to be into more whole foods and plant
Mhm.
predominant foods. And so by whole foods, I mean brown rice over white rice and whole wheat pasta over white pasta and
Mhm.
things of that nature, where you're keeping in the outer hull of the food and keeping in the
Mhm.
fiber and keeping things as close to the way God made it as possible. So
That's
even
a
if you
that's a
were
good
to
way to
say that
think of
I'm
it,
going to
yeah.
eat meat, that like, okay, well then don't do sausage, right? Or can
Mhm.
you eat less? Can you not do the processed meats, and just do it less often? Maybe only do it on the weekends, or what have you.
Mhm. So processed meats mean like deli meats, sausage, bacon, those are all processed
Pepperoni,
meats. Right.
pepperoni,
Pepperoni, yep, uh-huh.
all those things actually increase your risk of cancer. The World Health
Wow.
Organization calls processed meats a group 1 carcinogen, on the
Mhm.
same level as asbestos and tobacco. And so,
Wow.
yeah, for some reason,
Heck,
it's still
we have to pause for that. So processed meats are as cancer causing as asbestos and tobacco. So processed meats are the new smoking.
absolutely. So instead of
Okay.
giving, putting a hot dog in a bun, you can put a cigarette in a bun, and
Get the same
you think
effect.
that way, right? It's had the same effect.
Got it.
Now, it's not in the
Mhm.
same level, it's the same definitive nature in terms of
Mhm.
it definitively increases the risk. It's not like
Got it.
100%, of course, but it
Got it.
definitely increases the risk. Whereas other things might be possible causes of cancer, but processed meats are
Definite.
uh, a definite cause of cancer
Got it. Um, so what are 3 key transformations that we could each make with our eating habits to maximize our health today?
today. Three changes, I would say. The first thing I would say is taking out the processed meats. That'd
Mhm.
be the very first thing to do, is cutting out the processed meats. Like you said, the sausage, the bacon, the pepperoni,
The
things
hot
that nature.
dog.
That'd be the hot dogs. That'd be the first thing to
Mhm.
do. Bratwurst and even ground beef. Those kind of things I would cut out of our diets as soon as possible. And that way, at least if you're going to do meats, you're doing whole meats. You're doing, an actual chicken breast or something like that, as opposed to chicken
Mhm.
sausage. So that'd be
Yeah.
the first thing I would suggest. The second thing I would suggest is really minimizing your added sweeteners, and so especially your sugar. Sugar is really bad.
Mhm.
It's wonderfully tasty. It's really good for your tongue. Like, your tongue loves loves it, right? Well, my
But that's
tongue.
the only thing that benefits.
Right. So, and here's the thought process: is it's really being transformed by the renewing of your mind. So your tongue is saying, I love it, I love it, I love it. And it's only 1%, less than 1% of your body by weight. The tongue is
Mm.
less than 1% of your body by weight. The other 99% of your body is like, no, no, stop giving me this. But your tongue is like, this is
This is the bomb. Yeah.
the bomb, right? And so we're eating for short term and not for long term. And then for the third, I would say tie between the salt. I'll say processed foods in general, because
Mhm.
they'll include the salt. A lot of the processed foods that we have are salt heavy, and
So
so
potato chips, pork rinds, all those, frozen dinners,
yeah, a lot of
canned
that.
soups, canned
Yeah,
soups. Yeah.
a lot of that is heavy on sodium. And the way you can tell if it's too much sodium is if you one little trick is that you should have um, fewer milligrams of sodium on the back of the package, fewer
Mhm.
milligrams of sodium than calories.
Mm,
So if you
that's good.
have
Good rule of
more
thumb.
milligrams of sodium than calories, then it's a really high sodium food. So if you think most people on
Mhm.
general eat about 2,000 calories on average, well, they should be eating 2,000 calories. And if you had 1 milligram of sodium per calorie, that means you have 2,000 milligrams of sodium. So that's not too bad.
Mhm.
Ideally, we go for 1,500 milligrams of sodium. But at least if that's one little way to say, does my meal have more sodium than it does uh, calories?
Got it. And one thing I often tell people in my book, Excuse Me, Doctor, I wrote about the fact that our cells turn over at a specific rate, and the taste buds turn over every 10 to 14 days. So 50% of your taste buds turn over in about 5 to 7 days. So if you can just do the changes in terms of the decreased salt and the decreased sugar for a week, you're halfway there. If you can do it for 2 weeks, your body will have brand new taste buds with new expectations, right? And so you can actually make those changes because your body is expecting something different because you've cut back and your new taste buds are basically reset to something new in 2 weeks. So,
Correct. Correct.
yeah.
That's why I really like the Daniel fast and the business that my wife and I do called Lifestyle Med Revolution. My wife Keisha Bowman.
Mhm,
Um, we do is called Lifestyle Med Revolution, and we focus a lot on doing a kickstart, a
mhm,
21 day kickstart to really get you going. And by the time the 21 days are over,
mhm.
your taste buds have already started to change.
Yeah.
And by that time, the foods that you know before seemed normal to you, if you go back to them, you're like, God, that was really salty, or man, that was really sweet,
Mhm.
and you
Right.
recognize how much sugar and how much salt was in it. And so I think that's a major way to do it. And for me, we bring it in spiritually because honestly, the flesh is the spirit's willing, but the flesh is weak because it's
Right.
hard at times to
Yeah.
make some lifestyle changes, especially significant ones.
Mhm,
But really, in my mind, if you think about it, one of the problems about lifestyle changes that people don't think about with food being your medicine is that we end up doing such small changes that we don't see anything but small benefit. And the small benefit
mhm,
might only be that my blood pressure improved by 2 points. And so you don't
mhm,
even notice that there's an issue or an improvement. And so it's like if you have a dose of Tylenol, let's say the dose of Tylenol is 500 milligrams, and you took only 50 milligrams of Tylenol and said, "Well, doc, I still have a headache." And I'm like, "Well, okay, well, what's going on? And how much did you take?" "Oh, I took 100 milligrams." And it's like that was only a fifth of the dose, right? So I'll take a little bit more. So
mhm,
take another 50, another 50, and another 50, another 50. Now you're only at 300. So you've made a lot
mhm.
of changes, but you haven't gotten to what was called a therapeutic dose for the Tylenol. Similarly, we need to get to a therapeutic dose of lifestyle changes to the point where
Mhm.
whatever health condition that you want to reverse or treat is actually being treated by that lifestyle change. You actually need a big dose for some of the bigger health problems.
Sure. But when it comes to taking that big dose, I mean, we have to be honest, people eat for different reasons. They eat to deal with depression, they eat to deal with stress, they eat to deal with joy, right? How do you work through that with your clients and your patients?
So again, I think a lot of it's being mindful. and saying, so why do you eat what you eat? And my wife is really good at that. She's really good at breaking down and saying, she's a health coach, really
Mhm.
good at getting down to like, so why is it that this is so important to you, that pizza is so important to you? And a lot of
Mhm.
times that pizza might be important to you because you have, it brings back memories of your childhood. And you remember, this is how I remember my mom, or have you, what have you. And then once you recognize, oh, that's the reason why I like pizza so much. I never thought about that. Okay.
Mhm.
And, again, now there's nothing wrong with any food, right? There's nothing wrong with it. We just got to understand that everything that we do has a consequence. And
Mhm.
so if you say, you know what, doc, I don't want to give up chicken. For instance, I didn't want to give up sugar. And
Mhm.
so, but I cut everything else out. So I cut out the meats and the dairy and the eggs and the white carbs and well, refined carbs like the flour and brown rice, and I did white rice, brown rice instead of white rice. So I cut out a lot of stuff, but I kept my sugar in. And what happened in the meanwhile, I did lose some weight. I lost quite a
Mhm.
bit of weight. My asthma got better. My allergies got better. My constipation was
Mm.
gone, but I didn't hit all my goals. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Now I have a choice to make. Am I willing to stop short of my goals because I want to keep this food in, or do I want to keep going further? And
Mhm.
so it depends. I would say eat according to your goals. If your goals are to reverse your health problem, then you got to eat a certain way. If your goal is to just come down on the dose of one medication, then you might not have to do as much. But if you want to get to complete and total health, then you might need to change, make a significant change.
So, so let's also talk about another sort of roadblock, and that's oftentimes that processed stuff is easily available and it's cheaper, right?
Hmm.
Especially the
Hmm.
the canned soups. Those are the kinds of foods that they give away to people who are lower incomes, are seniors. That's the food that they're given, right? In a lot of food giveaway programs. So, what impact does food insecurity have on health? And what are some interventions that are now available for people who, are don't have access or limited access to nutritious foods, either because of where they live or their pocketbooks?
Good points. So, even at Dollar Tree and other places like that, they do sell beans, for instance, right? So, excuse me, if you were to go there, they sell beans, they sell nuts, they sell things like that are still only cost $1, but can provide a lot more health. So you
Mhm.
can get more bang for your buck. So if you think about it, what's the most expensive part of our meals? It's going to be the protein. It's going to be the meat.
Mhm.
And so if you really want to cut costs, if you say I'm going to do chickpeas instead of chicken, I'm going to do beans instead of beef, I'm going to do lentils instead of lamb, you're going to save quite a bit of money on what was the most expensive part of your meal. And
Mhm.
so, and those things tend to be shelf stable. So I don't do beans in a bag. I could if I want to take the time to do that. I buy canned beans. I try to buy the low sodium canned beans, but I still buy
Mhm.
canned beans. And if you want to have, or if I got to do a snack, doc, I got to do a snack, then you can do things like, air popcorn, or popcorn that doesn't
Mhm.
have all the butter and stuff like added.
Right.
And then in terms of now access, so there are things, like there's Instacart and things like that where you can get, if you don't have access in your area to other foods, there's Instacart and Grubhub and things like that where you can get these things delivered to you. And then it's also important to think about like what's on sale. So I don't get cherries out of season, because cherries out of season
Mhm.
are 2 to 3 times the cost of what they are when they're in season.
Mhm. Same
So
with
we
blueberries.
go
I love blueberries. Yeah.
overboard. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we go overboard on them from, on cherries from, June till September, and then nothing, because they're
Mhm.
really expensive after that. Same thing
Mhm.
with, if you think that certain foods are expensive, then maybe getting them frozen. I'm totally pro frozen food. So I would get
Mhm.
frozen fruit. I do that with my smoothies. Some people do fresh fruit for their smoothies. I do bananas, but I don't do fresh fruit. I do mostly frozen food
Mhm.
because that food's going to be the same cost. the year round, as opposed to kind of wavering with the
Right.
cost of being out of season. So,
Yes.
getting food that's in season as opposed to out of season is helpful. Getting things that are local makes things a lot cheaper as well. And so, and then what other tips do I give for for cost? Uh, Buying things, even grains. So grains tend to
Hmm.
be relatively inexpensive, and so have a little bit more grain in your meal. So if you do the brown rice, actually it's interesting. Brown rice costs the same as white rice, even though you're getting a lot more
Hmm.
nutrients, a lot more health. You're getting more health for that same dollar. Whole wheat pasta costs the same as white pasta. Uh, the um, the sweet potatoes cost the same as white potatoes. So you're getting more nutrition for that same cost. And so those are some ways that you can cut costs.
Great, great tips. And also too, for people that are on Medicaid, there's a program called Prescription Plus where your doctor can write you in some cities and some states can write you a prescription for fresh produce. You could take it to the farmer's market, you could take it to the um
Mhm.
to the grocery store and get fresh produce for free. So there are also ways to leverage your relationship with your physician and your insurance company if cost is an issue. It
Absolutely.
is I can't believe that it is time. We have been talking way too long. We got to bring the audience in and see what kind of questions they have from our chat. Wayne, hey, what is
Hey,
going
hey,
on out
hey.
there?
Hey, want to thank the doctor for basically eliminating everything in my refrigerator and pantry. Thank you very much. We'll talk out off air. We will. So let me say the first question, actually comment, comes from Catherine Addison. She says, great conversation, learning a lot. What about spices besides salt? In our culture, we cook with other spices, but at times these spices have added preservatives to aid shelf life. What do we do?
Mm, good
Mm,
question.
very good question. So that's one of the keys to making the healthier food tasty is spices. So you cannot think that just open up a can of chickpeas and think it's going to taste good. No, right? You have to flavor these foods. I mean, think about it. You know, a perfectly cooked rotisserie chicken that has absolutely no seasoning on it is not going to taste good either.
No.
So why do you think that chickpea is good, or steamed broccoli with no flavor on it? We got to add some flavor to it, and so there are. So one, I want to add a lot of spices. So ginger is an amazing spice. Turmeric is an
Mm,
amazing spice. And a lot of these are really cheap for the amount of serving size that you're going to use. So you can add a lot of flavor to things without having to add a lot of cost. There are some that have preservatives, and so you actually it's interesting. Um, Label reading is really important and very very underutilized. So don't just look at the front of the package, look at the back and say, what is in this? And so whether it be spices you buy off the shelf, the rack, and especially if you buy if it's just basil or just fenugreek, then it's probably just fenugreek, right? But if you get the ones that are combined, there may be some preservatives that are going to be
mhm.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, I'd look at the back. But really, if you think about it, if you look at the back of the package, you're gonna be afraid. Be afraid. Be very
So
afraid.
really so really just buy the single ingredient spices as opposed to the the ones that are multiple spices together because those are the ones that tend to have added ingredients.
I would say just read the label. Some of them
Mhm.
are going to be fantastic. Some of them are going
Yeah.
to be great and as a combination, but
Mm-hmm.
just read the back. And if you can't pronounce them, if you can't find that ingredient on the shelf, then it's a chemical that
Mm.
probably we should stay away from.
Okay.
And the other thing you could do is in your windowsill, grow your favorite herbs. It's not that hard.
Wow.
Even
Wow.
even better.
That's
Yeah.
even better. So this question comes from me. So people say everything has changed in the past 20 to 30 years. I have heard that food doesn't have the same amount of nutrition. Is that true?
Yes, it's true on a number of levels. So you think about some of the foods that the soil isn't as rich as it used to be. So there are some nutrient deficiencies from some of the things that we thought were, packed full of nutrients. Um, so yeah, that is true. But if you think about it, also, I went to Haiti. This is back when I was still eating meat, and I had some chicken that was really really small. It was like it was like where's my finger? It was like
Mhm.
really small. And I was like, my where's my chicken? Are y'all out there peeling it and giving it to the kids in the back? Like where's my meat?
Uh-huh.
Where's my meat? And so, or back in the day, they say, where's the beef, right? In this case, where's the chicken? So I'm like, where's my meat? And it hit me that maybe that chicken wasn't out
It's
there, getting hormones and eating the wrong foods,
mhm, it's a normal
Mhm.
chicken.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a normal chicken. That's probably what it should have been, because not
Mhm.
like American chicken is out there, doing squats to get big legs, big thighs, and doing push-ups and
Yeah.
bicep curls to get big wings. That's not what's happening. That's not why our chicken is bigger, right? It's chicken is
Mhm.
it's bigger because it's got other additives to it. So we do
Yeah.
have to be careful of both the additives that people add to the meats and other things. But yeah, the food isn't quite as nutritious as before in general. I think even like your organic foods would have more nutrients than your non-organic foods, but sometimes it's not in the budget. I would still say, then if that's the case, just eat more spinach, eat more
Okay.
kale, as opposed to saying, "Well, I'm not gonna eat it anymore because it doesn't have any nutrients." No, just eat more of it.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have a question coming from Yvonne Smith. Hey, Yvonne, are there support groups for people doing lifestyle changes?
Ooh, great
Mm,
question.
great question. Great question. So we have one. Um, our group, Lifestyle Med Revolution, which you can find on Instagram, Facebook, or lifestylemedrevolution.com. We actually have daily. We focus a lot on spirituality, but there is a prayer group that we do every day. Every weekday, and so people who are in this group are people who have done our fast with us, people who have um, uh, achieve some lifestyle changes and still want to stay in our group. So that's one particular group. But there are other groups that are out there. So I um, don't know all the names of them, but I'm sure there are others. Um, might be almost as good as ours.
Okay.
And
Um,
and if I could, I just want to tack on another question to that. Great question, Yvonne. What if somebody wants to find a lifestyle medicine doctor? What do they do? I mean, because this is a national show. So is there a place that they can go to find a
right.
lifestyle medicine doctor near them?
So a couple ways is going to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and they have a doctor look up their the Plant Nutrition Project, like a pediatrician, but they call it Plant Nutrition.
Hmm.
They have a group of doctors who identify themselves as plant nutrition, so they're plant focused, and that you can search them as well. It's the Plant Nutrition Project, and there are other. You have to ask around. I mean, honestly, you can. I know for myself, if you just Google lifestyle medicine doctors,
Hmm.
some will pop up as well. And so you want somebody who's board certified, ideally board certified in lifestyle medicine, and that would make a big difference. There's a board certification process where we have to exhibit a certain amount of knowledge about the power. And lifestyle medicine is not just about food; it's also about exercise and stress management and positive positive social connections and sleep and other things like that. But
Okay.
a big focus of lifestyle medicine is on nutrition.
Okay. So we have a question coming from our West Coast producer that people don't even know we have, but our West Coast producer, Rhoda Lawrence, has a question. We want to shout out Rhoda. How important are seeds and oils? Do you add flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp? And also, does cooking with avocado oil make a big difference?
Okay.
Good
I'm
question.
sorry. Yeah, good question. Great question. Thanks for the question. So the ideal foods that tend to be anti-inflammatory and support great biological health tend to be fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, which are your beans, chickpeas, lentils, soy, and then also nuts and seeds. And so I'm a big proponent of nuts and seeds. Now they do have higher calorie intake, so you should eat maybe a handful of them as opposed to a whole bowl full.
You can't sit
Um,
down and eat a whole bag.
Can't bag, and you can. There's just going to be an effect.
Right.
So, but flaxseed is one of the best seeds out there. It's really good for cancer prevention. It's good for, especially for and breast pain. It's good for diabetes. It should be ground, by the way. So it should be ground. Like I do flax meal. It should be ground flax seeds. If you don't do ground flax seeds, you should chew them to make them ground. They're good for fiber as well. So that if you just eat them whole and don't have them ground up by somebody else or by yourself, then they'll pass right through. It's great for the fiber, but you won't get the other benefits. There are the benefits of having the blood pressure. Flax seeds are really good for blood pressure as well. So I love adding flaxseed to my daily diet, usually in my smoothies, sometimes in my oatmeal. I add chia seeds to my oatmeal. And the other question was
Avocado
Avocado
oil.
oil.
it's funny. I now do air pop popcorn, and I spray avocado oil on my popcorn to kind of let the nutritional yeast and the little bit of salt I put on stick. So avocado oil, olive oils are if you're going to use oils, those are much better oils to use. Some of the other oils that are not as good, coconut oil, palm oil, those tend to be highly have a lot of saturated fat, and saturated fat is one of the fats that promotes oxidative stress and inflammation. It increases your cholesterol. It increases insulin resistance, which is the cause of type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, and gestational diabetes and polycystic ovarian syndrome and a lot of other things, even Alzheimer's. So all these things are associated with saturated fat intake. And so where do you find saturated fat? In the plant kingdom, you find it in coconut oil, coconut milk, and palm oil, which you might find in a lot of junk foods or in vegan cookies and vegan ice cream and stuff like that. And then and crackers
I think that's an important point. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. Okay.
Nope. And so it's more having predominantly whole plant foods as your primary source of nutrition. Whether and if you go to a party and you want to have a little something, that's fine. But it's just if you think about it, if we celebrate 15 days a year of something, anniversaries, holidays, birthdays, etc. It's those days aren't as important as the 350. So the 350 that aren't the holidays are the most important times for us to make changes. Now, the problem is you can slip, like, oh my gosh, I forgot how good cookies were or donuts were. Oh my gosh. And then you slip because you celebrated and you now have slipped back into your old ways. But in general, it's what you do on a regular basis that matters.
Okay. So we have a question coming from Maurice Ellington. What about getting enough protein in your diet so you don't lose muscle? How do you do that if you're not a big fan of meat?
I love it. Thanks for asking that question, Maurice. So people always ask people who go vegan, where do you get your protein from? And I'll say, I get my protein from the same place that your chicken gets its protein from, that your cow gets protein from plants.
Okay.
So, but now you gotta be thoughtful. If you're just doing fruit doesn't have a lot of protein. You have to eat a lot of vegetables to get a lot of protein as well. So you have to look at where are the most concentrated sources of protein in the plant-based diet. And it's going to be in your nuts, seeds, your beans, chickpeas, lentils, and in your whole grains. So those are where your biggest source of protein is going to be. If you just stick to fruits and vegetables, you're not going to get enough protein. So it's important to get it from those sources. Great other sources include like tofu, soy, and tempeh. Those and people are so afraid of soy. Like, oh my God, soy's horrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's
soy gets a
terrible
bad
for
rap.
rats. Soy gets a bad rap, but it's terrible for rats. But actually, kind of find out we aren't rats, we're people. And so soy is actually really good if you get, in this minimally processed way, right? So there's a lot of really processed soy foods where it's like, it's not really all that healthy. But if you get it in its, in tofu or edamame or tempeh, that where it's really concentrated and close to and lightly processed, those are healthy.
Okay.
Soy actually is good for prevention and treatment of breast cancer. People are like, oh my God, but soy is an estrogen. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. You can't do that. No, soy is a phytoestrogen that helps to block the estrogen in our breast and block the estrogen in other places in our bodies. So it actually is a soy blocker, as an estrogen blocker in the tissues where it matters most, like especially the breast. But it's a estrogen stimulant in areas where it's good, like for menopause and for cholesterol, for your blood vessels, for menopausal symptoms and stuff like that.
So more soy if you're going through menopause.
Yes, more soy,
Right.
more whole food. It's good for what do you call it? Menstrual pain as well.
Okay.
Menstrual pain often comes from inflammation, and actually, it's
Mhm.
interesting. We get inflammation from for almost all diseases, all the joint diseases, menstrual pain. It comes from inflammatory stuff. So it comes from arachidonic acid, which arachidonic acid is an acid that comes from a lot of meats, dairy, eggs. And so if we cut those out and then add in more whole plant foods, and actually ginger is a blocker of arachidonic acid, then you're golden.
Anti-inflammatory.
All right.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. I know I'm getting the hints from Wayne. I gotta wrap up. I can't believe this has been so just information dense and rich. Thank you so much, Dr. Bowman, for sharing everything with us. And remember, it's lifestyle medicine. So nutrition and eating to prevent disease is really important. But the other things are important too that he mentioned, those other 6 pillars. And of course, we're going to get to those on a different show. But thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Wayne, for the wonderful questions and for being a fabulous producer. And before I go, I have to mention, of course, that study at Howard is still recruiting. They really would love to hear from you if they haven't already. It's the COVID Resilience Research Study. Participation is voluntary. You just have to fill out a 2-part survey. You can be compensated up to $100 based upon the parts that you complete. So if you're interested, reach out to Dana Harvey, who is the research assistant. Dana Harvey Research at gmail.com. That's DANA Harvey, HARVEY, research at gmail.com. Well, that is it for us on Excuse Me, Doctor tonight. We heard about gratitude, so I want to thank you, my audience, for just being a fabulous Be Health Empowered family and keeping those questions and comments coming. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.
So I guess I should thank the Robinsons. They invited me. They still don't know. I hooked up with Dave 3 days ago. He'll start coughing tomorrow. And I bet in 10 days he'll be on a ventilator. Now his wife, she's not vaccinated because she thinks it'll prevent her from being pregnant. But what they don't know is that I can decrease sperm count. Sorry, Dave.